Good morning. Good morning, and welcome to South Church, aka Sunday Morning Jazz. And if you ever think to yourself, is it okay to dance in church? The answer is yes. Good morning, everyone. I am the Reverend Ellen Quaadgras, and I serve in shared leadership here with Kirsten Hunter and in shared ministry with all of you. Welcome to all of you online. Welcome to all of you here in the sanctuary. It is good to be with you in this brand new month. Welcome also to our theme of gratitude for November, which we will explore in different ways over the course of the month. I'm certainly grateful to be here with Mitch, Pivor, our worship associate, with Johnny Pfeiffer and the South Church Band and members of the choir making music with and for us today. That is always a treat. I'm grateful for Ben Abbott and Jen Leiden, who are sharing this service far and wide, and for Jen Del Deo-Barry for offering a time for all ages for the youngest among us, after which they are invited to go downstairs for some religious explorations. I'm also grateful that we will all get to head downstairs for coffee hour after the service, where we will get to partake not only in coffee and delicious items, but also in conversation. And yes, I do have a question for you today, which is, what did you actually do with your extra hour today? And what do you wish you had done? Or if that's too personal, how about this? If time really fell back for a whole day, what moment would you relive just once more? I have a couple of announcements. I'm really excited about the lineup for this Tuesday's Seacoast Unity Hub gathering. That's from 6 to 8 p.m. on Tuesday after you vote. We'll hear from community leaders from the Lovering Center, NAACP, 350 New Hampshire, ACLU, New Hampshire Outright, and more, each sharing how they are resisting authoritarianism or standing up for democracy in their own way. It's a chance for each of us to recenter, reconnect, and draw inspiration from others who care deeply about what's happening in our world. Details are in your order of service, which, by the way, is really good to read very thoroughly and closely because there's so much good stuff in here. Another thing I want to lift up for you is that the auctions drop-off is this coming Wednesday at noon. Downstairs, there will be folks here. Also, if you have questions for them, coffee hour, for anything you want to ask. Already they're thanking you for all your wonderful donations, and if you have items or questions, again, downstairs after worship. Also, there is the children's holiday giving. That is, a bin will be out next Sunday, starting next Sunday, so there's information about that in your order of service as well. And then I also want to invite our Mission United team to offer their own announcement.
Thanks, South Church. My name is Anita Rosef, and I am the convener of Mission United, where money and ministry meet. And we are in the second week of our campaign, and I wonder how we're doing. I wonder, Richard?
Good morning, I'm BJ Lates, and I'm also a member of the Mission United team. What I'd like to say is that we do only have 2 weeks to go, so time is getting short. And now is the opportunity for you to participate by signing your pledge and getting it in. I think we may have someone right nearby here, Dave, who has a story. Dave?
Thank you, BJ. I'm Dave Mortensen, also on the Mission United team. And if you're like my wife Libby and I, pledge packets have a way of taking on a life of their own. It sits in a stack on the kitchen table for a week or so. It then migrates up into the important pile next to the computer. And then at service last week, I was reminded, the pledge packet. Where is the pledge packet? So I came home and we dug the pledge packet out of the pile adjacent to the computer, and it is now on its way. So if yours has been incorporated in a stack, please go dig that out. We look forward to hearing from you.
Thanks, Dave. I'm Brian Brown, also with Mission United team. We are the stewardship committee, but we are all stewards of this wonderful place. And we want to hear from you, whether you can pledge or not, whether your pledge is large or small. We'll be downstairs at the table as you come down. If you need information, forms, if you've misplaced your packet, we have more. Come see us, and thank you, because together we will be funding our faith and fueling our faith and funding our future.
Thank you, Team Mission United. There are large print hymnals and listening devices in the back. If you are new and you want to get on our mailing list, fill out one of these green forms. If you don't have one in your pew, just come find me or one of our greeters either before or after the service. We'd be happy to give you one. And also, please silence your cell phone if you have that with you. As we just heard, it is a special time of year when we talk about pledges, but more than that, we also talk about purpose. And today we'll hear from Jim Verschueren, who's sharing a bit about what keeps him connected and committed to South Church. Thanks, Jim.
Is this working well? I got it right? Okay. So the Mission United team put out to some of us 3 questions to answer, and we took our choices, and they actually accepted one of my responses. So the question was, how has your membership in South Church helped you build resilience and hope? And the answer just poured out of me. When my family joined South Church in 1984, my purpose was to provide my 2 elementary kids with exposure to a church community and some foundation in religious thinking. I was 37. I had left Christianity about 2 decades earlier. When we found South Church, I felt at home. At that point in my life, resilience and hope came from a new understanding that not only was I not alone in my rejection of traditional Christian religion, I could be part of a community that shared my values and helped put them into action in the world. As the various stages of life have come and gone, I can reflect on how the church community has a constant and reliable source of resilience and hope in different ways at different stages. In my 40s and 50s, we navigated family life and careers. The church community's commitment to helping me be the best person I could be made it a source of personal growth and an expanding openness to different ways of being faithful. The idea that we are all flawed human beings helped me appreciate myself for my better qualities, forgive myself when I failed, and find compassion for others. Resilience came from a more relaxed approach to the human condition, an understanding that the journey is what is important, not a perceived perfect destination. At age 58, my life was turned inside out when my wife Donna died of pancreatic cancer. The church and its values gave me the hope and resilience that got me through that terrible experience. Her memorial service here gave me and my family an experience of love and support that helped me survive the following months of grieving. The church's expressed value of the worth and dignity of every human being had shown me that LGBTQ people could be welcomed, loved, and appreciated. And so when I came out to live the same-sex side of my sexuality, the church community supported me, living the values of our faith. Carlo and I met and married here. Our engagement and support of this church is a cornerstone of our life together. Now, at age 78, many parts of my life are in a positive place. We are financially comfortable. Our health issues are not life-threatening. We have a circle of friends and family, strong family ties that enrich us every day. Yet, in this horrific time of national upheaval, it would be easy for me to withdraw from the world. When it feels that all is being torn asunder, that our wonderful and flawed country may well not survive as we know it, I turn here for resilience and hope. We mount collective action to counter the forces that are trying to bring the country into authoritarianism. We actively support marginalized communities in many direct and concrete ways, resulting in achievements that no one of us could do alone. Because of this church community, I feel neither powerless nor alone. That is hope and resilience, and why I invite each of us to support our community as generously as we possibly can. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. We pause now to take a moment to acknowledge the land on which we gather, a land once tended by the Abenaki and Pennacook peoples who knew the seasons of the year long before us here. The rain that nourishes the earth, the turning leaves of fall, the cycles of growth and rest, all of these have sustained life here for thousands of years. May our gratitude for this place deepen our care for it and strengthen our commitment to justice and repair, so that all who live here may belong and be renewed together.
As we light our chalice here, we invite people watching at home to light a candle or chalice of their own. We light this chalice today with these words from Reverend Michelle Collins. We light this chalice for eyes that see miracles in mundane moments. May this flame remind us that gratitude grows not through waiting for extraordinary gifts, but through noticing the ordinary blessings surrounding us daily. Now, please rise and join us, if you are able and willing, in the reading of our mission statement printed in the order of service. At South Church, we nurture spiritual growth through worship, learning, and community. We celebrate the worth and dignity of all people, and we inspire one another to act on our faith in a larger community. Good morning. My words for today are gratitude, grace, and courage. Our theme for November is gratitude, and today for words I share with you the night I discovered the light of grace, and how grace became part of me, appreciating gratitude and giving me courage. It was over a decade ago. I was new to this congregation. I've been in 2 previous UU congregations, and I was still getting to know the spirit of this congregation. I recently joined my first Covenant group, and we had met a few times. Wonderful group of people sharing deep reflective thoughts on different topics. Very special. So it was on a dark, cold November night over a decade ago, I opened my email and saw the word to be discussed that evening at group. The word was grace, and I froze. I have never felt comfortable with this word. It, for me, was a religious Christian term, a word to say in Christian prayers, and I'm not connected to Christianity. And that hymn, Amazing Grace, I liked the music, but had issues with the words such as, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I did not need saving. For me, with these thoughts on that dark, cold November night, I was thinking of not going to Covenant group. I had no desire to speak about grace, but something drew me to go. And I drove to Kittery Point up that twisty, dark road that travels to the point, to the lighted home of Lori Bilby. And in Covenant group, I listened. I heard people speak of grace in so many different ways. Grace being gratitude, gratitude for our breath, gratitude for life, gratitude for people, gratitude for nature, sunsets, and sunrises, of grace being our approach to life. It was on this night, with the insight of this Covenant group, of these people in our congregation, I discovered the light of grace as gratefulness. And on the way home that night, the road was not as dark, the road was not as twisty, and that hymn kept playing in my head, Amazing Grace, but with different words. Amazing grace, how sweet it is to find the light of grace. Amazing grace, how sweet it is to find the light of grace. And since that night, I sing these words every morning, words to remind me to have the attitude of grace for the day ahead, of being thankful and seeing more of the positives and not the negatives. And this has given me courage to face some really hard days and difficult times, to face these times with grace and gratefulness, to remind myself of all to be thankful for, and to remind myself for the good and not the bad, to see the light and have the courage to have grace in difficult times, and to continue my hope for better tomorrows. May it be so. And now, we all get to sing Amazing Grace together as our opening hymn. Originally a prayer and then set to a hymn to the tune called New Britain 50 years later, I encourage in the UU traditions to sing either the words printed or your own words. For me, I will be singing To Save a Soul Like Me, number 205 in a great hymnal, singing verse 1, 2, and 3. Please stand as you're able, and let's hear all our beautiful voices together.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now am found, was blind, but now I see. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear, the hour I first believed. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already gone. 'Tis grace that brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home.
It's time for a story. So anybody's who are in the playground who would like to come hear a story, come on over. And anyone out there who would like to hear the story closer, kids, adults, anyone, you're welcome to join me up here.
Let me have a sound.
My turn.
What? No.
Oh, look, Sarah and Johnny are all by themselves on this side. Does anybody want to come over this way? I know you want to be closer to the playground, probably. Okay, here we go. Once upon a time, there was a girl named Libby who loved to explore. She liked to ride her bike fast down hills, and she liked to climb tall trees, and she really loved a good all-day adventure in the woods behind her house. But one day, something very scary happened. She was riding her bike, and then the front tire hit a rock, and Libby flew that way, and her bike flew that way, and she fell hard, and she broke her arm, and it hurt a lot. And so she went to the hospital, and they put a nice green cast on it, and by the end of the summer, her arm had healed all back to normal. But there was something inside her that still remembered just how scary that accident had been, and that part hadn't healed. And so one day, she was walking in the park, and she heard a little voice yell, "Watch out!" right when a dog ran by. And she looked, and she didn't see where it had come from, but then she noticed this little guy standing on her shoulder. He was only this big. And she looked at him, and he said, "My name's Bob, and I'm here to keep you safe. That accident that you had was so scary, and I'm here to make sure it never, ever happens again." And Libby thought that was great, because who wouldn't want someone to help them not get hurt, right? And so he was on her shoulder as she walked around, and when she got to a place where it was time to cross the street, Bob would say, "Careful," And so Libby would look left and right and left again and right again to make sure that there were no cars coming before she crossed. And when they saw a big dog barking up ahead, Bob would say, "I think we should just go a different way." And they did. And that worked great. But pretty soon, Bob started shouting about everything. Like, "Don't climb up that slide. You might slip and get hurt." And, "I don't think we should go talk to those kids. What if they laugh at you?" And, "It's a little bit cloudy today, so we better not go out in that because it could rain and we might get wet and cold and sick." And pretty soon, Bob grew bigger and louder. And he was heavy up there on her shoulders. He was so heavy that she could hardly carry him anymore. And it was rough. And he would pace around the room. And he would say things like,
"It's always safer in your bedroom. It is so dangerous out there. You should stay in here."
And so Libby stopped going outside, and she watched her favorite trees through the window and just saw the sunshine, and she could see the breeze, and she missed being out there where there was joy and play. But Bob kept saying,
"You have to stay in here. Something really dangerous and bad could happen out there."
And then one day she was looking out the window and her brother rode by on his skateboard. And she could tell he was having so much fun. And her heart ached. And Bob saw all this happening.
No way. Absolutely not. You could totally fall. Do you remember the arm?
And Libby did remember, and her heart was pounding just like it had that day that she fell off her bike. But this time she thought it might be worse if she didn't go outside. So she took a deep breath, and she looked at Bob, and she said, "Thanks for keeping me safe, Bob, but I think I've got this one."
Are you sure? It is so dangerous there.
"Thanks, Bob, but I think I've got this." And she went to the door with her heart still pounding. She stepped out onto the porch. She felt the sunshine on her skin. And she put on her helmet and some knee pads. And she asked her brother if she could have a turn on the skateboard. And she started gliding slowly. She could feel a nice breeze on her face, and it started to feel joyful, even though her heart was still pounding.
You're doing great.
So are you. And something amazing happened. Bob got a little less heavy, a little smaller, and not quite so loud. And then from that day on, Bob and Libby started to learn to work together. They practiced going out more and more. And when there was an actual danger, a real danger, little Bob on her shoulder would say, "Watch out," and she would listen. But if little Bob started to get a little nervous about things that were just new or different, Libby would remind him, "Thanks, Bob, but I've got this." And little by little, Libby learned to trust Bob, and she learned to trust herself. Now, we all have Bob. Every single one of us. And Bob is important because Bob keeps us safe. But sometimes Bob can start to get big and bossy and to and to make it so that we start to be afraid of more and more things that we don't need to be afraid of. And so what we all get to do when we have the right tools and support, we can actually learn to work with our Bob and decide. We get to decide when Bob says something, we can look and decide, is this something I should really be afraid of? Or can I handle this? And we get to decide who drives the bus. Does Bob get to drive the bus, or do I get to drive the bus? And even though sometimes Bob can be very scary, we can even learn to be grateful for Bob keeping us safe, because we know also how to be safe. All right, now let's go downstairs and have some time together.
Each week at the Offertory, we give as we are able to help support organizations that we have chosen. This is shared giving with South Church and much appreciated. We'd also like to call attention to pledging. We are on a mission, Mission United, in our pledging period to support South Church. This is separate from the Offertory donations, and urge you, if you're not already, to fill out your pledge. A pledge to support this special place. Your generosity is much appreciated. During the month, our Offertory collection will be shared with Seacoast Family Promise. Seacoast Family Promise provides temporary housing, food, and shelter to families through a structured journey utilizing trauma-informed care, employment education, housing search, financial education, parenting, and other effective tools leading families back to stability and the return to a place they can call home. May the collection begin.
People hand in hand, have I lived to see the milk and honey land, where hate's a dream and love forever stands? Or is this a vision in my mind? Was never passed, but somehow all men feel they're truly free at last. Have we really gone this far through space and time? Or is this a vision in my mind? Not one who make-believes. I know the leaves are green. They only turn to brown when autumn comes around. I know just what I say. Today is not yesterday, and all things have an ending. But what I'd like to know is, could a place like this exist so beautiful? Or do we have to find our wings and fly away to the vision in our mind? Oh, we give thanks for this precious day, for all gathered here and those far away, for this time we share with love and care. Oh, we give thanks for this precious day.
As we begin our time of community prayer and reflection, I want to let you know that Dr. Russ Grazier died this week. Barbara Grazier and Russ Grazier were part of this congregation for a very long time, and I invite all of us to hold Barbara in our hearts in this loss. As we settle into this moment of prayer and meditation, I invite you to let your body rest and your breath slow as we take in these words adapted from Reverend Kathleen McTeague. Here in the refuge of this Sabbath home, we turn our full hearts toward one another. Move together through the mysteries, the bright sunshine of birth, the shadowed questions of death. In our slow walk between the two, we will be wounded and we will be showered with grace, amazing, unending. Even in our sorrows, may we feel our lives cradled in holiness. And though we each walk within a vast loneliness, the promise we offer here is that we do not walk alone. This is a holy place in which we gather. The light of the earth brought in and held and touched then by our answering light. The flicker of a candle, the lamps of our open faces brought near. In this place of silence and celebration, solemnity and music, we make a sanctuary and name our home. Into this home, we bring our hunger for awakening. We bring compassionate hearts and a will toward justice. Into this home, we bring the courage to walk on after hard losses, and we bring our joy and gratitude for ordinary blessings. By our gathering, we bless this place. In its shelter, may we know ourselves blessed. As the music begins, you are invited into a time of quiet reflection, seated where you are, or you may come forward and light a candle of joy or sorrow or gratitude. However you choose to be in this moment, may it be a time of rest and renewal for your spirit. May the stillness we have shared and the lights we have kindled remind us that even in times of uncertainty, there is beauty and there is belonging. I have one of those Kindles that tells you what it thinks you want to read. The other day, it recommended a book called See No Evil, a story about a woman being stalked by her own family. And I thought, really? That's what you think I need right now? Netflix is no better. I watch the Great British Baking Show, kind people making tarts and sponge cakes. But Netflix keeps suggesting that I'd enjoy some nice slasher films. It's as if the algorithm thinks, here's the worst of humankind. You're a minister. You can handle it. When really, I'd like them to suggest a nice documentary about embroidery or apple picking. So Alexa, if you're listening, please take note. But maybe it's not just me. Maybe these are the kinds of suggestions everyone's getting. After all, it does seem like humanity right now is working out something about our shadow side. I don't need to list all the evidence. You see the headlines. You're taking it in. Things that once seemed unimaginable are becoming normal. Lines we thought no one would cross keep moving. It makes me want to stand on the sidelines like a frantic referee yelling, out of bounds. You can't do that. That is out of bounds. But they are doing that. These are unusual times. Some would call them a little crazy. And while part of me keeps thinking, why aren't more people standing up, speaking out, doing something? Another part of me knows when the world feels off kilter, it is hard not to internalize some of the chaos. Exhaustion and despair can tighten round the heart. Fear creeps in and shrinks imagination. We might start to hear a voice that says, there's not much you can do about it anyway, and you probably would be best not to try. Which brings me to Libby from Our Time for All Ages and her little shoulder friend, Bob. Bob means well. He just wants to keep Libby safe. But after her fall, Bob gets so loud she can hardly move. I think a lot of us are living with our own Bob right now. The uncertainty around us can so easily trigger that inner voice that says, don't climb, don't risk, don't speak up, don't try when you're not sure. We have learned over lifetimes, culturally and personally, that control is safer than curiosity. We have been conditioned to stay inside the lines. But there's a problem. When we stay inside a box too long, we stop being fully alive. I hesitated to use the word crazy for this sermon. It has been used carelessly, even cruelly, toward people whose brains just work differently. But what I mean isn't pathology. It's the kind of crazy that still feels, still imagines, still acts from love when the world has lost its mind. Because if you look around, being sane, in the cultural sense, well-behaved, well-defended, following the script, isn't doing a whole lot for any of us. Sometimes sanity lives outside the lines our culture's drawn, in those who can still feel, imagine, and love in the middle of the madness. And that, I think, is the sanity of the soul. And gratitude, real gratitude, not the cotton candy kind, is part of how we get there. It steadies the body, It widens the lens, lets us see shadows without losing the light. Gratitude can, as Mitch so eloquently put it, turn a dark and twisty road into a path lit by grace. And it can, I think, help us recognize other humans as humans, even when they annoy us or disagree with us, maybe even when they scare us. Maybe that's what it means to be crazy grateful. Not cheerful denial, but the courage to stay open-hearted when fear tells you to shut down. I was listening to a podcast recently about what they called the rainbow ceiling, like the glass ceiling, but for LGBTQ plus folks. They talked about discrimination and bias, and then one guest said something that stuck with me, that queer people often have a kind of superpower because they've spent their lives navigating difference. They're the ones in the room who can say what others are afraid to say. They've practiced living a little out of bounds, and they're particularly able to be real, bold, honest. And out of bounds, that phrase struck a chord because it's there, on the edge, that real clarity and courage often live. Activist Greta Thunberg also comes to mind, openly neurodivergent, or as some say, neurospicy. She calls it her superpower. What psychologists label autism, she experiences as the ability to focus fiercely on what's true, to refuse to look away, to tell it like she sees it. And she has an impact on the world. I think of the love and acceptance it must have taken from her parents, from herself, to see that difference, not as liability, but as a gift. That's a kind of gratitude, too. The radical kind that looks straight at what is and says, this, too, has something to teach me. And I think of anyone living in these times right now, when so much is out of bounds. The world feels upside down, and we don't know what to do. There's a quote I love by the physicist Edward Teller. When you come to the end of all the light you know, it's time to step into the darkness of the unknown. Faith is knowing that one of two things will happen. Either you will be given something solid to stand on, or you will be taught to fly. Personally, I've always hoped to be in the taught to fly group, because faith, real faith, isn't about certainty. It's about risking flight when the ground is gone. And maybe that's what the world is asking of us now, giving us an opportunity for now, to unlock the door to courage, to be willing to step off the edge, and to trust that our wings will remember how to open. It's never too late to try. There's a song that keeps playing in my head about all this, and sometimes music says it better than prose ever could. and decides after 70 years that's what he goes there for, is to unlock the door while those around him criticize and sleep. Through a fractal on a breaking wall, I see you, my friend, and touch your face again. Miracles will happen as we speak. But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. But we're never gonna survive unless we are a little crazy. In a world full of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. In a sky full of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Crazy. In a heaven of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Crazy, crazy, crazy. But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. But we're never gonna survive unless we are a little crazy. And I mean crazy not as in reckless, but as in willing to color outside the lines. Crazy like an artist who paints when the world says it doesn't matter. Crazy like a person who still loves when cynicism feels safer. Or crazy like a citizen who keeps believing in democracy even when the tanks are rolling in. A writer named Andrew Solomon once told a story of being in Moscow during a failed coup. He'd gone there to escape grief and found himself right in the middle of history. One morning, a friend called. Gorbachev's been kidnapped. There may be a civil war. He didn't believe it, but when he turned on the TV, every channel was showing Tchaikovsky ballets, which he learned was what Soviet state media did when something happened they did not want known. He and a group of artists followed the whispers, go to the demonstration. They saw people dragging scaffolding, old boards, and concrete to build barricades around the Parliament building, and they joined them. A woman in high heels called out, does anyone know how to drive a bulldozer? Someone started a crane they clearly did not know how to use. It was chaos, and it was community. When the first tanks rolled in, the artists did something almost unimaginable. They walked toward them. They asked these young soldiers where they were from, how long they'd been in the army. They said, if you're told to shoot, it will be us. But if you don't, come to us. We'll feed you. We'll protect you. They offered them bread, chocolate, sausages. 3 days later, more tanks approached. The artists and others rushed to the barricade, joined hands, and stood 3 feet from the machines. The soldier on the front tank shouted, we've been ordered to clear this barricade. If you move, we won't hurt anyone. If not, we'll run you down. The artists called back, give us 1 minute to tell you why we're here. They spoke of freedom, of memory, of the cost of blind obedience. They trembled as they spoke. The soldiers stared at them for a long moment and then said, "What you've said is true. We must bow to the will of the people. If you clear a space for us to turn around, we will leave your barricade." They stepped aside. The tanks made U-turns. The artists embraced one another. It was the beginning of the end of the Soviet Union. For a fleeting moment, democracy had cracked the shell of empire, fragile, imperfect, but so very alive. And while that political moment didn't last there, it showed something timeless, that even in the face of authoritarian power, an open heart can be the most subversive force there is. Now, you may be wondering, is she suggesting that if tanks show up here, we should stop and stare them down with open hearts and bars of chocolate? Not necessarily. What I am saying is this: the human spirit, when it connects with another human spirit, can make miracles happen. And there are many ways to connect. Crazy gratitude, that wild, steady openness, isn't about taking the scariest leap you can imagine. It's about finding your own edge. Last month, I talked about the intersection between commitment and capacity, how we all bring different resources and different readiness when it comes to giving. The same is true when it comes to risk. We each have a different edge, and it shifts over time. For some, courage means stepping right in the middle of the heat of a public protest. For others, it's something quieter, a hard conversation, a truth told in love, a boundary set that's firm but kind. But every one of those places where courage meets capacity is holy ground. Some of you may know the author Timothy Schneider, who wrote On Tyranny, a handbook for resisting authoritarianism. He also wrote a book called On Freedom, a book on how to keep democracy alive. He says, freedom's not just the absence of oppression, it's a presence of relationship. It's real embodied connection with others who are also trying to live the truth. Freedom, he says, depends on how you treat one another. And when we recognize each other as living beings, not objects, not enemies, we create the conditions for courage and for change. Here's a word for what he's offering: chatting. Not debating, not convincing, chatting. Because freedom begins when we talk with someone in real life, when we risk being unpredictable, unguarded, and human. He tells us to gather, to connect, and to reweave. I first heard all of this at our all-church book discussion last month. Carrie Sherman explained about all of that to us. She was living this intention to chat with people as a practice, and she described it for us. She met a young man who loved watching bats fly across the lake near his house, and she said, "That sounds cool." And he said, "It is cool." Okay, so that was it. But what I heard, and the way she told it, was so much more. The potential, that tiny spark of shared aliveness, as we practice that, it only grows. And maybe that's part of how we learn to fly. One brave conversation, one honest act of connection at a time. Maybe that's how gratitude works in the end. Not as sugarcoating over this world's pain, but a widening of heart and courage to really breathe. So, yes, the world may be crazy right now. Our algorithms, our politics, our fears, it's real. But the antidote to fear isn't safety, it's connection, it's creativity, it's gratitude as openness, the willingness to keep our hearts alive to life, even when it's hard, even when we're just not sure. We may come to the end of all the light we know, but faith and a little holy craziness can teach us how to fly. May we become together crazy grateful.
A man decides after 70 years that what he goes there for is to unlock the door, while those around him criticize and sleep. And through a fractal on a breaking wall, I see you, my friend, and touch your face again. Miracles will happen as we speak. But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we are a little crazy. In a sky full of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? In a world full of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? In a heaven of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? In a world full of people, only some want to fly. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy. Oh no, we'll never survive unless we get a little crazy. No, we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy.
Wow. Is this when we ask for an encore? But the time has come where we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and share with the world until we are together again.
Our closing words. May the light you carry meet the shadows with grace. May courage and gratitude hold hands in you. May you risk connection over certainty, presence over fear. And when the world tilts, may we together keep moving forward in love. Amen. Go in peace, and let's sing together our closing hymn to round out our service. Text is in your order of service. Keep on moving forward.
Well, I guess it would be nice if I could touch your body. I know not everybody has got a body like you. Oh, well, I gotta think twice before I give my heart away. And I know all the games you play, 'cause I play them too. Oh, but I need some time off from that emotion. Time to pick my heart up off the floor. Oh, when love comes down to our devotion, well, it takes a strong man, baby, but I'm showing you the door, 'cause I gotta have faith. I gotta have faith. Well, I got to have faith, the faith, the faith. I gotta have faith, the faith, the faith. I have a big pile of alphabetized FCFs for you. I did them all.